book of Ecclesiastes. A life without God, under the sun, leads to meaninglessness and despair, says the teacher in a strikingly modern book. Introduction to the book of Ecclesiastes. When life seems senseless, a book for our time. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless, according to chapter 1, verse 2. In this world, there are only two tragedies, said Oscar Wilde. One is not getting what one wants, and the other is getting it. This paradoxical proverb has often proved true. The world's richest man. Many poor people think that if they only had more money, they would be happy. Howard Hughes was the world's richest man when he was only 45 years old. 20 years later, at 65, he still had all his money but was probably the world's most miserable man. He had retreated from society, living in small, dark rooms in hotels, keeping all the sun out. He was dirty. His beard grew down to his waist, and his hair fell down his back. His fingernails were 2 inches long. His huge body had shrunk to nothing. A rich king. There once was another very, very rich man who found that riches did not satisfy. His name was Solomon. He wrote a book about it called Ecclesiastes. This rich king had tasted just about everything life could offer. Wealth, no one could exceed him in luxury. Check on chapter 2, verses 4 to 9. Wisdom, the whole world knew how wise he was. Check on chapter 1, verses 13 to 18. Fame, he was king, the most famous man of his time, according to chapter 1, verse 12. Systematically, he sampled all of life's pleasures and powers, yet all ultimately disappointed him. All proved meaningless. What is the point of life? He asked. You work hard and someone else gets all the credit. You struggle to be good and evil people take advantage of you. You accumulate money and it just goes to spoil children. You seek pleasure and it turns sour on you. And everyone, rich or poor, good or evil, meets the same end. We all die. There is only one word to describe this life: meaningless. Life under the sun. Ecclesiastes strikes a responsive chord in our age. No century has seen such progress and yet such despair. What is the purpose of life anyway? Is there any ultimate meaning? Is it all there is? Asked one songwriter after listing life's pleasures. A key phrase in this book, to quote Under the Sun, describes the world lived on one level, apart from God, and without any belief in the afterlife. If you live on that level, you may well conclude that life is meaningless. Ecclesiastes gives some words of hope, including the final summary, to quote, "Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." according to chapter 12, verse 13. That's a positive message, the lesson of Ecclesiastes. But such positive words are almost overwhelmed by the author's powerful negative example. You could summarize his whole life in Jesus' one statement. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Another version, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet loses his own soul? You may refer to Matthew chapter 16, verse 26. How to read the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes attracts extreme reactions. For several hundred years, Jewish scholars fiercely debated whether the book should even be included in the Old Testament. Yet novelist Thomas Wolfe said of it, Ecclesiastes is the greatest single piece of writing I have ever known, and the wisdom expressed in it the most lasting and profound. Because of the book's unique nature, it is important to keep certain principles in mind while reading it. Consider Ecclesiastes as a whole. The teacher was exploring various philosophies of life. During his search, he tried different approaches, including hedonism, the unrestrained pursuit of pleasure. The book honestly records the author's search without endorsing it. At times, the author concludes with despairing statements that directly contradict other parts of the Bible. For example, the recurring phrase, everything is meaningless. Read such individual statements in their context. Just as the book of Job contains arguments that God directly refuted later, so Ecclesiastes contains many isolated statements that contradicts its final conclusion. Ecclesiastes performs two very valuable functions. First, it should stimulate compassion for those who are trapped in despair and live in a meaningless world, alone without God. The author brilliantly captures the futility and meaninglessness of that world, expressing a philosophy of life widespread in the 20th century. But the book includes more than despair. It also blends in proverbs about how life should be lived, tangent observations that can be easily overlooked. Look for these nuggets of wisdom, especially toward the end of the book. You may also find it helpful to balance out Ecclesiastes with the more confident advice of Proverbs. By asking questions, the author of Ecclesiastes helped prepare for the answers God ultimately provided. The teacher concluded, to quote, everything is meaningless under the sun. But when Jesus Christ came, He promised life. To quote, to the full, according to chapter 10, verse 10. Of the Gospel of John. Plans for reading the book of Ecclesiastes. Plan 1, an overview of Ecclesiastes in one day. So read the introduction to Ecclesiastes, just like what we've done, and then proceed to chapter 3, perhaps the most enduring portion of the book's poetry. Now for plan 2, all of Ecclesiastes in 12 days. One chapter a day from chapter 1 to chapter 12.